Most shocking news, maybe this entire year, US workers stressed out, it turns out, and not just sort of objectively stressed out. They're among the most stressed workers in the entire world, according to a new study. The US is really bad. Canada is also pretty stressed out, so solidarity with our northern brothers and sisters. But some 57% of US and Canadian workers reported feeling stress on a daily basis, up 8 points from just last year, and compared with 43% of people who generally feel that way in all other non-US and Canada countries. Now, this is a trend that we've been seeing. Rates of daily stress, worry, sadness, and anger have been trending upward for American workers since 2009, which not coincidentally is the economic collapse. Concerns over the virus last year, sickness, financial insecurity, and racial trauma all contributed to added stress during the pandemic. And interestingly, the spikes in stress have been especially acute for women in the last year, with 62% of working women in the US and Canada reporting daily feelings of stress compared with 52% of men. So it's bad across the board, really bad for women especially, Viviana.
Well, I think during this pandemic, a lot of women have been unfairly burdened with the tasks of childcare and homeschooling and all of that kind of stuff that happens in the home, since everybody was at home for the most period of time. And that just is a trend that happens anyway. Unfortunately, most couples, there isn't an equal distribution of labor in the home. So you add that to a woman who's also working outside the home and in the home, she's bound to be more stressed. But we're gonna see an uprising for workers' rights hopefully soon. The last election we had at least in California, and there's been a lot across the country of these gig economy workers and these companies really trying to protect themselves and not the workers. And so now with this pandemic, a lot of people have been staying home. They're reevaluating their priorities. They recognize maybe they were working too hard before and how much stress they were under because of it. And so people are starting to really question, was I being exploited? And the answer, yes, you were.
Yeah. And people get it.
Are.
I think there's an increase, I think over the past decade or two in class consciousness. People get the situation that they have. People getting frustrated. You have it obviously, especially on the left, but you have it some on the right. It gets co-opted into xenophobia and hatred of critical race theory and stuff like that. They obviously clearly are frustrated about how they've been screwed over, by major corporations and given a massive assist by the government. Definitely. Now, I would ask to the ruling elites in government and the economy, do you think that this is a good thing? Do you think that this is gonna go well? Like, how much more can you pile on workers before something terrible happens? Whether it's something that from your perspective would be terrible, like a political revolution that finally puts pro-worker candidates in office, or something even crazier. Is this good? Do you like what you're seeing here? And the solution, not difficult. Like when you ask workers why they're stressed out, they don't say crazy things. They say fairly reasonable things like, I don't wanna be forced to work in a place where I'm gonna get a deadly virus. I wanna not be ground into the ground with how much I'm working. And it would be nice that if I actually get paid. Maybe it would be cool to be able to take a little bit of time off when I have a kid or something like that. These are very reasonable demands. And we're gonna see. We're gonna see if the Democrats deliver on any of this. If they don't, I know what's gonna happen. You know what's gonna happen. We're not gonna have Democrats in charge for very long.
Yeah.
Now, one other thing I would advise that they should look into, and maybe Viviana, you have a stance on this. We only have about 2 minutes left, but I would remind people, 4-day work weeks, great idea for fighting back against stress, shown to increase productivity. And international examples like this Microsoft study in Japan back in 2019, they've tested it all over the world. It's a great idea. We earned a 2-day weekend a really long time ago. When do we get our 3rd day? That's what I ask you, America.
We're not even get the weekends anymore, John. People are working 7 days a week now. They got their gig, they got their other gig, they got all this stuff going on. Meanwhile, Jeff Bezos just bought a $169 million home in Beverly Hills. So don't tell me they can't afford it, because that's
what they say.
Does he have
a parking spot for his space shuttle?
Yeah, it's actually there is a garage for the space shuttle. There's two.
Probably got an elevator.
No, but this is the thing. You can afford it. You can afford to give them health care. You can afford to give them time off. You can afford to give them better wages. And you just maybe have to buy an $89 million home. Is that so bad?
Do you have nice hardwood floors in the $80 million home?
They both have equally nice parquet wood floors.
That's great.
Beautiful.
Great.
There's no.
By the way, I love to fit in any like call for a 4-day work week that I can. So I'm just going to remind people also, there have been studies that show that it'd be great for the environment. 4-day week campaign in the environmental organization Platform London found that if the UK moved to a 4-day work week by 2025, their emissions could drop by about 20%, roughly equivalent to taking all of the cars off the streets. And the productivity would be up overall. So again, I don't understand why more companies aren't doing this.
For all the pro-lifers out there, it helps kids too. Their parents get to spend time with them, yay.
Yeah, exactly. So whether you're worried about stress, whether you're worried about all this stuff, totally true.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.